A quick overview of the tanks that are available to Black Horse. They come in two flavors, real tanks and not real tanks. Well, we'll start off with the new pride of the fleet, the M1A2 SEPv3. Just delivered, brand new in the traditional 11th ACR Tiger Stripe scheme, which has been used by the Opfor units since before the KVT days, the days of the Sheridan and so on. As the new V3, of course, I can't take you inside. They will not let me. In fact, they're not letting me in the old V2s either, but that's another matter entirely. Suffice to say, it has all the latest gadgets and gizmos that you might expect, which thus makes this an extremely dangerous opponent for any rotational units coming through. I mean, features of the M1A2 SEPv3 you can find online easy enough. So you've got a little bit more frontal armor. Well, this is a simulated environment, not really so important. That said, although 11th ACR rarely deploys, it has done so. So the regiment went to Iraq. Elements went to Afghanistan, twice actually, once just a small element, and then my squadron went over back in about 2009. But we didn't bring our tanks. But when they went to Iraq, they brought armor. So it's entirely possible that this tank could see frontline action if required. The other reason that 11th ACR is getting the newest tank is because, of course, this is simply a change of station assignment. Eventually, the troopers who are assigned to Black Horse are going to rotate out of 11th ACR and go back into the line units in other bases, where, of course, they're going to get into the line tanks, the A2s, which means that they've got to know what they're doing. So when they're done with their box and their OSVs, they're going to come back into an M1 and they'll shoot the gunnery and they'll make sure that they're still current on the standard service equipment of the US Army. The other item of interest, I'm going to have a quick look, of course, again, I'm not going to open it up. When you get back to the back, and this is kind of like your indicator of a V3, is this exhaust port here, because they've put an Under Armour auxiliary power unit in the back left. That the rear view light, rear view correction, the camera has been retrofitted to a couple of V2s as well, so that's not so much an indicator. Look for that vent, you know, you're looking at an V3. So that was the M1. Now, of course, out in the box, yes, there are M1s sometimes in the box. Way back in the day, they used to be called KVTs, Krasnovian variant tanks. And as I'm speaking, there's a platoon of these M1s out there actually causing havoc to Black Horse because there's a sort of a civil war scenario going on. Most of Black Horse is still using these OSVs, the Opfor surrogate vehicle. So way back in the day, they had the Sheridans, Viz-modded Sheridans. There's a couple still scattered around on post. Then they replaced the Sheridans with the KVT, I mentioned, the Krasnovian variant tank, which is the M1. They took the side skirts off, they put a couple of fake oil 55-gallon drums on the back of the turret, and that was your T-72 type tank. Well, face it, running around out there in the box, using an M1 repeatedly is an unnecessary toll on the finances, because an M1 is not the cheapest thing to run. Last I heard, it was something along the lines of $200 a mile. So they came up with the Opfor surrogate vehicle, and this is the tank variant. There are other variants. There's 2S6 variant, there's a BMP variant, there's excuse me, an engineering variant. But what they basically are is an M113 under the hood. You can see the old shape and the tracks are very distinctive. And they added things on the outside, such as fenders on the tank, or a long bow to make it look like a BMP. And they put a new turret on. Of course, M113s don't usually come with a turret. So the turret is in effect a Bradley turret. So when you get inside, you'll see the Bradley turret basket with the sliding door that everybody's familiar with from the Bradley. Then when you're sitting in the gunner's or TC seat, you've got the same control panels in between the two positions for the ammunition select, turret power, stabilization, and so on. Differences outside of that. Well, firstly, you don't have the 25mm ammo bin, so you actually have a lot more legroom. Secondly, up top is a FLIR. It's much better than the Bradley's thermal imager back in my day when I had an A2. Downside, you'll see the FLIR is mounted on top of the gun tube. The gun is stabilized, but there's a difference between a stabilized gun and a stabilized sight. The M1 has a stabilized sight, so no matter what the tank is doing, the sight is very steady. This one, as the tank is driving around, yeah, the stabilization will keep it more or less on target, but not steady enough to shoot or identify what it is you're looking at. So the Opfor vehicles actually have to stop to shoot with any accuracy on the move, or even to properly identify what it is that they're looking at. That said, it still has the electronic zoom up to by 50, so it's better than you might think when you say it has an old Bradley turret. It also doesn't have optics, it's a relaxed viewing monitor. Inside, to simulate the various different systems, there's a miles control box, so you have to select the ammunition type that you have, and also the control box will tell the system what kind of a vehicle it is. Am I a tank? Can I be killed by 7.62? That sort of thing. So, but the combination of the control box and the gunner's panel, you can shoot AP, heat, HE, or reflex missiles, the AT-11. I think that's the reflex. And the longest kill that I'm aware of was over 6 kilometers, although theoretically that had to be adjudicated back down. But if they zero the miles system correctly, this thing will kill at a very long range. And you can see from NTC that line of sight is huge. So, you know, if you can be seen, you can probably be killed, and you can be seen at a very long way at times. So the real trick, and this is what Black Horse tends to do, is they know where all the little nooks and crannies are that you can get keyhole shots, that you can get reverse slopes, and get the first shot off, which is what will kill the rotational units. Other than that, as I say, an M113, it's cheap, it's easy to run, it's a little bit higher than your typical BMP and so on, but it does the job. Without full power going to the hydraulic motor, it can't do a full turn. Needs to stop and recharge, as it were.